if you don't want to be like anyone else, then you should be willing to do or sacrifice what other people are not willing to make. You see, becoming rich and wealthy actually is a sacrifice, is a determination. It involves pragmatism. You have to be resilient and you have to make up your mind that this thing has to be done. So, if you don't want to belong to the category of the majority, or if you don't want to belong to the category of those that are actually struggling in this economic system, which is called capitalism or free market economic system, then you have to understand that there are some sacrifices that you needed to make for you to be able to be successful in life, for you to be able to be wealthy in their life. So if you don't want to live like others, if you don't want to be like other people, if you don't want to go through the circumstances or situations that majority of people are actually going through in life, that is, they are not wealthy enough or they are struggling financially, then it is imperative that you should be willing to make some sacrifices. A lot of people actually believe that for you to be rich or to be wealthy or to be well to do, you actually need some level of education. But fact or history has proven us wrong in this regard, because in most cases, people that are actually rich today or very wealthy today do not even, most of them do not go to university, but they were able to, make up their mind to actually, become very wealthy, and they actually make some good financial decisions in life. And you need to understand also that most of these people that are actually wealthy today is not only achieved by them, most of them actually employ people that are far more intelligent than them, one way or the other. And these people actually help them to navigate through the process of becoming very wealthy in life. So you can start your life, you can become meaningful in life, you can become wealthy in life, even without qualification, even without money, and you can actually become a billionaire or a multi-billionaire or a multi-millionaire. You see, to become wealthy in life, there are some certain things that you needed to do, and these are the things which I'm going to be talking about in this video. Number one is that you need to avoid working only for money. You need to avoid working only for money. So, what do I mean by you need to avoid working only for money? You see, a lot of people actually believe that when they stack money, when they keep money in the bank, and when they are able to store a lot of money in their bank account, that actually guarantees them wealth or makes them to be wealthy. But history and fact has also proven us wrong in this regard. So if you actually put your money in the bank, or you actually store your money somewhere, or you're actually stacking your money somewhere, we have actually discovered that over time that money may not have value because of high level of inflation. And you will agree with me that in the world today, there is a high level of inflation due to some certain economic policies that are made by world leaders. So you need to avoid, stacking money over time, because no amount of money you actually keep without investment, that money is going to lose value. So when you keep this money and you are not investing that money definitely is going to lose value. So investment is the key. Investment is the open door to wealth creation. So stacking money is not good enough when you are not actually investing that money. So over time, if money is not well invested, it will begin to lose value. And when it loses value, you will discover that money may not be able to go far in achieving one thing or another which you actually wanted in your life. In the case of somebody that has a job and is well paid, and the person that has a job and is not well paid. Now, in the case of the person that actually has a job and is well paid, and the person that has a job and is not well paid, there is a big discrepancy between them. One is highly paid and the other one is not well paid. Now, what is the difference between both of them? You see, even when you have a high paying job and you are earning well, you receive a lot of salary at the end of the month, and you are smiling to the bank every month because you are well paid in that particular job, and you are not actually investing that money, you are only stacking that money. That is not good enough, because that is not a prerequisite for wealth creation. So stacking money, in the case of someone that's highly paid and is not investing the money, that money is going to lose value. Now let's look at the case of the second person that actually is having a job or is working but is not well paid. And this individual in this case, despite the fact that he might not be able to meet up his financial challenges, is still making room for some form of investment where he's going to be keeping some amount of money aside or setting aside that money for investment. Now, if you look at these two individuals over a period of years, for the other one that is having a good job and is well paid and is stacking money or storing money or keeping money in the bank or saving money in the bank, and the individual that is not well paid but is actually investing his money at every consecutive month, in the later year, you are going to discover that one of them is going to do more better. And which of them is going to do more better? The one that's actually stacking the money will not do better, because why? He is not actually investing the money. But the individual that is not well paid but is getting little amount of money at the end of it, but rather is actually investing some part of this money, is going to do more better in the future. And if care is not taken, the other individual that is actually well paid and is not saving, is not investing his money, might end up not having anything in the future. But the other guy that's actually earning less but is actually investing money will have a very brighter future than the other party. So it is not a matter of how much you are well paid, but are you actually investing the money? Are you putting the money into investment? Is the money actually working for you or growing for you? Or you are only stacking the money where at the end of the day, inflation is going to eat over that money. So even when you are highly paid, you need to set aside some amount of money for investment. You see, a lot of people celebrate the fact that they are having a very good job today, but on the other hand too, their level of financial education is very, very low. And that's why in most cases, people that belongs to this category or find themselves in this category do not have any form of investment. And in the future, they are always going back to square one, because why? There is nothing to leverage on in the future when it comes to the level of investment, because the more they earn this money, the more they spend this money, and they are not actually investing anything for the future. So the individual in B is going to be better off than the individual in the A. Individual in A is actually well paid but is not investing, but is spending the money and saving the money. But the individual in B is not well paid but is actually investing part of the money for the future. So B is going to do better than the A. The individual that actually has a high paying job actually prioritizes savings over investment. Is actually prioritizing savings over investment. While the other individual that has a job and is not well paid is actually prioritizing skills and the equity, and that's why he's actually investing most of his money when the money is actually earned at the end of the month. So as an individual, irrespective of the job that you are doing, provided you have a job and you are actually paid at the end of the month, you should be able to set aside some amount of money for investment, because that's where the future lies. So if you want a situation where you don't have to do what other people are doing and you are ready to actually sacrifice, then you can be rest assured that at the end of the day, you have something to bank on in the future when you're not working again, or when you're actually retired, or when your strength is no longer there for you to actually do what we're actually doing when you're very, very young. And that's why it's very important that now that we're actually working, we need to set aside some amount of money for investment for the future, because over time your money is going to compound, and that money over a period of time, if you are very consistent and resilient and very determined in this regard, that money can compound over a lot of money for you. It's going to bring you a lot of money, and at the end of the day, those things that you actually could not afford when you are actually investing the money, now that the money has actually come, you can now be able to afford those things at the end of the day. Another thing you need to avoid is buying or living a luxurious life. You need to avoid what I call buying a luxurious lifestyle. Now, what do I mean by luxurious lifestyle? Luxurious lifestyle is a kind of a life where you are able to live flamboyantly, you are able to live exotically, you are able to live, like somebody that's actually wealthy, and you're unable to save or you're unable to invest some part of your money. In other words, you're actually spending money extravagantly. Now, imagine a scenario, you're actually driving an expensive car, like maybe Lamborghini or Rolls Royce or BMW or one of these latest cars that are very, very expensive, and you're actually eating in a very exotic and fanciful restaurant. Now, do you know how much it's going to cost you if you're actually eating a very exotic restaurant in Nigeria, now, especially in Lagos State or in Abuja? It's going to cost you a lot of money. Do you understand? And apart from the fact that it's going to cost you money, buying car, expensive car right now is also very, very expensive because you're going to fuel the car, you're going to maintain the car, and you're going to pay. In most cases, most especially when you actually buy that car on a credit card, you're going to pay a lot of money to actually pay, to actually balance up for that car. I'm not saying get it right. I'm not saying you should not buy a car, but when you want to buy a car that's actually economical. There's no crime in doing that. Do you understand now? So imagine you're actually driving an expensive car, you're living an expensive life, you're living an extravagant life, you're living a flamboyant life, you're living a life where you're actually trying to impress people. At the end of the day, that is not good enough because you're actually buying or living a luxurious lifestyle. So luxurious lifestyle or expensive lifestyle makes you feel successful, but on the other hand, that is not the case. So living a luxurious life does not mean you are actually successful. Living an expensive life or a flamboyant life does not necessarily mean or translate into the fact that you're actually successful. The reverse may actually be the case because at the end of the day, you're actually spending the money for the future for today. Do you get it now? You are spending the money for the future for today. And in other words, it means that you're actually not investing your money. People that are actually living this kind of a luxurious lifestyle are, they are actually far from the truth. That is, most people living this life are far from being successful. They always give the impression they're actually rich. They always give the impression of, that they're actually well-to-do, or they're actually flamboyant, or they're actually exotic, or very, wealthy. But on the other hand, it is not always the case like that. It's always far from the truth. In other words, they are far from being successful. So majority of people today are paying for cars they cannot afford. They buy most of these expensive cars on credit, and they also go on expensive vacations on credit cards and the rest of them. And at the end of the day, they are paying a high level of balances or debt to the credit card companies or to the loans that have actually collected to go on the vacations and the rest of them, and the car they actually gotten for themselves. Apart from the car, apart from going on expensive vacation, we also have cases of people that are living in expensive apartments. I actually know of people that actually live in a 3-bedroom flat, and I asked some of them, how much do you actually pay for these houses? Some of them are paying about 6 million, 7 million, some are even paying 12 million, depending on the location and how sophisticated that environment is actually in. Now that money they are actually using to buy, to pay for those houses, to pay for those cars and going on those expensive vacations, you can actually invest that money into something profitable and you get a return at the end of the day. So most people that actually find themselves in this kind of lifestyle are actually pretending to be rich, but they are drowning in what I call debt. They are pretending to be rich, they are pretending to be sophisticated, they are pretending to presenting themselves to be flamboyant, to be exotic, to be very, very wealthy. But on the other hand, most of them are actually swimming in the tsunami of debt, or they are paying a lot of debt at the end of the day. So what will you profit you when you are paying a lot of debt and you are not preparing for the future? So they are trying to impress people through the social media. Some of them they post through beside their expensive cars, they drive these expensive cars, they pose in their room and they display their wealth and everything for everybody to see. And unfortunately, most people that are watching these things on social media try to imitate them, they try to be like them, they're trying to live this kind of reflecting life. But at the end of the day, there's nothing coming out of it because it's just a pretentious life. It's just a fake life, not a life that will not lead to anything. Because why? They are not investing at the end of the day. I'm not saying you should not live an expensive life, you should not live a flamboyant life, you should not live exotically. What we're always saying here is that you need to invest for the future. You don't need to spend all those money. You don't need to live in debt. You don't need to live in debt because you want to drive an expensive car. You don't need to live in debt because you want to go on an expensive vacation. You don't need to live in debt because you want to live in an expensive apartment. And for those that are actually trying to imitate them, you don't need to be like them too. But rather, your hard-earned money should be used for something profitable and something useful and that can yield you returns at the end of the day, where you can have a compound gains at the end of the day for your investment, various investment portfolios. And the most surprising thing is that most of the people that actually live this flamboyant life cannot survive when emergency actually happens. Now, what do I mean by that? You see, imagine you're actually living this expensive lifestyle or flamboyant lifestyle, and at the end of the day, you actually lose your job. You discover that after a week, most of them cannot even survive or cannot even sustain themselves. They end up begging, going on, begging people for money and try to sell those of the expensive properties and their, items to people that actually need them. That is that kind of life. That kind of life is not a good kind of a life. So a situation where emergency happens and you cannot be able to sustain yourself or survive for a particular period of time, then there's a bigger problem. Now, what are we saying here? If you are actually out of job, you should be able to survive for the next 3 months, even if you're not actually doing anything. But most people that actually live this librarian life, after a week, they are back to square one. There's nothing to show, and they are back on the street begging and looking for who to buy their properties at the end of the day. So instead of investing on depreciating value, that is liabilities and things that will not yield any interest or profit for you, you could invest on stocks, you could invest on shares, you could invest on crypto, you could invest on the real estate. This asset will actually increase your value and actually generate you a lot of income at the end of the day, depending on the amount of money you are willing to put into it at the end of the day. Another thing which you need to avoid is doing everything by yourself. Doing everything by yourself. I remember when we were in school in the university days, lecturers, one of our lecturers was teaching us on the Republic. He was mentioning Plato, he mentioned Aristotle, and he mentioned a lot of these great philosophers. And he said one thing, that skills actually acquired when you steadily do something over and over and over again. What we're saying here is that if you want to actually perfect yourself in one particular thing or the other, then it's better for you to actually do that thing consistently so that you can become a master in that particular thing. He was referring to Plato at that time. Now, what do we mean by all this? You see, doing everything by yourself is not good enough in most cases as well. You see, sometimes you might be very intelligent, you might be very smart, you might be very clever, you might have financial education and the rest of them, but in most cases it's not ideal enough for you to take decisions and decide most things by yourself. You should rather do what I call delegated responsibility, because no matter how intelligent and smart and clever you can be, you cannot outcompete a group of talented people. In other words, what we're saying here is that a tree cannot make a forest. You need to involve other people in your life, and that is the secret most of these wealthy people are actually they actually involve or they use. In most cases, most of them, they always employ people that are very more intelligent, more clever, more smarter than them, and these people or group of people, they give them very highly sophisticated opinions and advice on how to grow their financial empires at the end of the day. Successful people always have what I call external help. History has actually proven us right in this regard. You see, so for example, somebody like Elon Musk, most of you will say Elon Musk is a genius, he's smart, he's intelligent, he's clever, he's sophisticated. The man has high level of IQ. But do you know that most of the things that are actually accomplished by Elon Musk is not accomplished by him alone? He had what I call external help. Now, I can remember in the case of paper, when paper was sold out that time to, I think, one of these companies at that time for $1.5 billion dollars. It was not only Elon Musk that actually had paper. They are just a group of these talented and well sophisticated guys that actually own that company. And at the end of the day, by the time they sold the paper, what did they do? They diversified into other aspects of businesses. Some of them went into YouTube, some went into SpaceX, some went into LinkedIn, and so many of them like that. And they were able to employ very smart people. And what we're saying here, you need to employ people that are smarter than you. You need to employ people that are more intelligent than you. You need to employ people that are more sophisticated, more intelligent, more, that have more IQ than you. Now, what am I saying there? It does not mean that you are inferior. It does not mean that you are weak. It does not mean that you are not intelligent. What it means there is that when you add the ideas together, you can be best assured that you can actually, have a high productivity or result at the end of the day. So they do not work alone. They do not do most of these things alone. But rather they have what we call external help, and they involve other people in their lives. So if you want to be successful, you need to avoid doing everything by yourself. You need to bring more people to your side, people that can actually give you professional advice opinions and the rest of them. I'm not saying that you are not intelligent. I'm not saying that you are not, you don't have IQ. But when you add two or more things together, you can be rest assured that it's going to give what we call marginal productivity. Marginal productivity at the end of the day. Another thing you need to avoid if you want to be successful or if you want to be, well-to-do or wealthy in life, is that you need to avoid too many inputs. Too many inputs. Now, what do I mean by input? What we're saying there is that you need to avoid too many opinions, too many advices, too many things like that. Because at the end of the day, if you actually take all these things into cognizance and you take them into action, there's every possibility that you're going to be overwhelmed at the end of the day. And that's why you need to do what I call cybernetics, where you actually, do with those ones that are very important and do away with those ones that are not very important in your life. So we are actually surrounded by people who give us what we call input or opinions about things about life. Some of us, we take opinions from mentors, from people that are more intelligent than us, from people that are more experienced, or from people that have actually gone through those same process in life, and we take them as our role model. In most cases, they're actually good. But what we're saying here is that you should not overwhelm yourself with all these things, because at the end of the day, you may suffer from what we call there's every possibility that you might have cognitive overload. When cognitive overload occurs, it means that you are overwhelmed with so many ideas and opinions that you don't even know which one you should actually take at the end of the day, or which decision or action should actually take at the end of the day. And in most cases, you might end up getting confused. If you want to actually avoid the cognitive overload, where you are overwhelmed with so many information and choices, then you have to select, or you have to be able to separate those ones that are actually very important from those ones that are not very, very important. So you must only listen to information that can help you reach your targets. That's what we're saying here. You must only listen to those information that can actually help you to reach your target. So as a result of this, you can actually prioritize quality over quantity. Do you see now? So you need to prioritize quality, not quantity. Opinions are much, choices are much, informations are much, and can lead to cognitive overload. But on the other hand too, you need to take those that has quality, not quantity. So it's not about the game of number, but the game of what? Of quality. So you can also seek for expert advice or opinions from your mentors that can actually advise you and give you professional advice. And not all of them, mind you, not all of them is that you have to take. Take those that has quality and not quantity. So you must avoid what we call decision paralysis. Decision paralysis. Decision paralysis occur when you are confused, or you don't even know which decision to take, or which choices to take, or what to do, or how to move forward, or what to actually do. If you actually experience that kind of a thing, you are experiencing what we call decision paralysis, and it happens to most of us, or most people that actually find themselves in taking too much information, too much opinions, too much ideas and choices and the rest of them, and at the end of the day, they get confused and they suffer from what we call decision paralysis. Because when decision paralysis occurs, it means you cannot take decisions on how to move forward, or what action you should take as a next line of action, or what you should do. So if you find yourself in this situation or this situation, you are suffering from decision paralysis. And this affects our life so much that in most cases, most of us get confused. You don't even know what to choose or what to do or how to move forward in life. So avoid decision, avoid what we call cognitive overload and decision paralysis in their life. Another thing which you have to avoid is what I call ego. What do you mean by ego? Ego is when you are proud. Ego is when you actually believe that you know everything in life. You see, arrogant people believe that they know everything in life that other people don't know. So because of that, they feel on top of the world that nobody can actually, advise them. You see, arrogancy or pride can prevent us from seeing opportunities that are actually around us. If it can actually makes us to, prevent us from actually seeing opportunities that actually are found around us, especially when we are actually beclouded by a sense of pride and other things like that. So most people that actually are arrogant do not believe that they can take advice from people, or they can listen to other people around them. So the more you see the cases of life, or if you actually want to become very wealthy in life, you need to realize that you don't know anything, and you are in the process of learning every day. So the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know much, or you realize that you don't even know much things. You see, a lot of us believe that we actually know a lot of things, but in life, there's many things that we don't even know. So if you want to grow in life, if you want to be productive in life, if you want to be successful in life, if you want to be wealthy in life, if you want to be rich in life, then you need to keep learning from others. You need to expose yourself to the world of journals or books or rest of them, and listen to advice from people around you, because you might be gaining a lot of things when you actually listen to people, rather than actually believing that you know all, or you are actually Mr. Know All. You actually believe that you're a jack of all trade, but at the end of the day, you are a master of none. So you need to realize that you need to keep learning from people. You need to keep learning in life, and what you know is just an iceberg of millions of things that you don't actually know. What you know in life, if you actually do that and you know everything, it's just a tip of an iceberg, just a minute of something small compared to what you even know. And that's why you have to be very, very humble. You have to have a high sense of humility for you to be able to digest and incorporate and also accept all these informations as it comes to you. So arrogancy will not pay you, because it will actually prevent you from seeing opportunities that were actually around you. So what you know, or what you think you know, is just a tip of an iceberg of the millions of things that you don't even know in their life. Arrogance is actually a wealth killer. It will kill your morals. It will actually make you to believe that you're on top of the world, and they say pride comes before the fall. So if you don't want to fall, then you need to avoid the arrogance. So arrogance is actually a silent killer, a wealth killer. It convinces you that you are too good to learn, that you are too good to learn and too smart to listen. But if you want to progress in life, you need to learn to listen, and you need to also learn from other people, and not believing that you are too smart to listen and too good to learn from other people. Another thing that you need to avoid if you want to be successful in life is you need to avoid passing the blame. Passing the blame. You see, a lot of us, we always blame people, we blame the government, we blame the society, we blame our lecturers, we blame our teachers, we blame our parents, we blame our communities, we blame the sun, we blame the moon, we blame the planet, we blame everybody for a shortcoming. But you need to understand one thing, that if you actually want to be successful in life, then you need to stop behind the blame game. You need to stop the blame game. So avoid the blame game where you blame others for your failures. If you belong to this category, then you have to stop this today. So blaming others can actually become an habit. It actually becomes an habit that if anything happens in life and you're unable to achieve anything, you blame people. If this happens, you blame people. If that happens, you blame people. And it's not going to work well at the end of the day. So you need to avoid blaming people. You need to take responsibility for yourself. You need to take responsibility for your action. And you need to learn from your mistakes. Because when you learn from your mistake, you can actually correct your mistakes and move forward in life and actually actualize your dream at the end of the day. So you need to avoid passing the blame or blaming people for your shortcomings or for your failures at the end of the day. Then lastly, you need to avoid staying static. Staying static. What do I mean by staying static? You see, a lot of us, we like our comfort zone. We love comfort zone so much that we don't want to leave this comfort zone. We don't like taking risks. We don't like we don't like leaping forward. We always find ourselves that once we're in this comfort zone, we feel that we have accomplished a lot of things in life and we don't need to change or move forward in life. So you need to avoid being static or stagnant. That's what we're saying here. So avoid the comfort zone. What we're saying here is that you need to expand outside your comfort zone. The more you expand out of the comfort zone, the more you realize that there are so many opportunities around you that you need to harness and achieve at the end of the day. So we need to avoid the comfort zone, which is like a prison, that is self-imposed. A comfort zone is actually like a prison that is self-imposed. It's like we are in a confine. It's like we have actually restricted ourselves to a particular thing. And when opportunities arise or things that can actually improve our life actually comes forward, because we're in a comfort zone, we're unable to see those things, and we are always afraid of taking the risk because we don't want to leave that comfort zone. So if you're in a comfort zone will not allow you to improve in life. Comfort zone will not allow you to grow in life. Comfort zone will not allow you to become wealthy in life. So we need to understand that for us to be able to make it in life, we must be willing to take what I call the risk. So you need to avoid the comfort zone prison by willing to take risks at all times. At all times, you need to take risks at all times, and that's what differentiates the wealthy from the poor people. Poor people are always afraid of risk, but for the rich, they are always eager to take risk, because at the end of every risk, there's always a reward. whether positive or negative. They are not always afraid of taking risks. They always take risks at every time. And most of times, you discover that most of these people are always champions. They end up winning at the end of the day. You need to step out of your comfort zone. You must expand your comfort zone. That's what we're saying. As much as you want to expand. What we're saying here, you need to grow. You need to grow yourself. You don't need, just like when the baby is actually born, in day one, was taking breast and the rest of them. You need to grow from a baby to a child, then from a child to an adult, and from there you can now expand your horizon. That's what we're saying there. So don't be a baby forever. Don't be in a particular position forever. Leave that position and expand on that position. So if you don't push yourself out of the comfort zone, you may miss out of the opportunities that are always around you. Because opportunities are always around you. Like in the business communities, there are areas that can actually invest your money. Rather than stacking your money, rather than saving your money in the bank, where the money is not creating value, where the money is not growing, but rather the money is going to be eaten over by inflationary trend and high level of inflationary situations. So if you don't want to find yourself where all the money you have actually stacked in the bank account will not have value, then it's hard time for you to start investing your money. Like I said earlier, there are so many areas that can actually invest your money. You can invest your money in stocks, in shares, in crypto, in real estate. They are all over the place, that you can actually invest your money. Don't believe in this quick rich scheme, or what we call get rich quick scheme, where you believe that you can actually put 100 naira and you get 1 million naira. If you belong to that category, it's not a good one. You can imagine what actually happened last week or thereabouts regarding people that actually put their money into CBEX, and a lot of people, some of them they're having mental problem now. Some have even committed suicide because of it. Because why? They were not putting their money in the right channel. And that is why financial education is very, very good. If you have financial education, you will know that building wealth, becoming rich in life, becoming wealthy in life is a decade of sacrifice. It's not something that you put 1 naira, you get 1 million naira now. That is a get rich quick scheme that most people are finding themselves because of greed, because of selfishness, because they want to become rich in time. It doesn't work like that. Wealth is something they have to build over and over again. It's a decade of sacrifice. It involves patience, it involves resiliency, it involves consistency, it involves pragmatism, it involves determination. You need to have these qualities for you to actually be able to build wealth for yourself at the end of the day. So the get rich quick scheme is actually a scam, and they are scamming a lot of people in this regard. So the best way which you can actually become wealthy in life is when you invest your money where you can actually have a decade of sacrifice, where over time the money can actually compound for you, and not this get rich scheme that people are actually doing. At the end of the day, they lose all their money. Some people they're having psychological problems. Some have committed suicide. Some are in the prison now. Some are in the police station now because they borrow money from their loved ones. And today, the money has actually disappeared. Do you get it now? So if you want me to talk about that CBEX, leave that your comment. Leave something for me in the comment section. If you want me to discuss CBEX, because I've drafted a topic on that CBEX where I will be able to enlighten people on the secret of this CBEX and why people are falling victims of this CBEX scandal that is happening all over the country now. So if you don't want to find yourself in this situation, invest your money in mutual funds, invest your money in shares, invest your money in the crypto, invest your money in rental estate or real estate. Invest your money where your money is going to compound, not the quick rich scheme that people are following through today. I hope you have actually benefited something from this video. If you have actually gained something from this video, please subscribe now. Till I see you next time. Thank you and God bless you. Bye bye.